Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So when I made my last top 5 stealth camping must-haves video, I said that it could have easily been a top 10, and equally that I'd make another video in the future. So this is that video. So the purpose of this video is basically to list all the things I didn't list in the last top 5. And unlike last time, this isn't a top 5, so to speak, it's more so 5 other things. And the difference is as well, there's a couple of tips in this one, or things that I've learned over the months. It's safe to say the first top 5 covered all the majorly important items. Previous top 5 included the porta potty, my jackery, the lights that I use. It included the window covers and the bed. So that was the previous top 5. Now what this top 5, you could say, is smaller things that I've found useful as things to have when I go car camping, and hopefully they're things that if you haven't thought of, that you may go and get before you do car camping for the first time. So the first thing I'm going to talk about as a must-have is something you will often see in people's comments. I know I've had it in my comments in one of my first videos, and I see it quite a lot in other car campers' comments where people say, have you got this? You need to have this. And that is a carbon monoxide alarm. Now, I didn't think I needed a carbon monoxide alarm at first. I thought that cooking in your car was fine. Now, interestingly, on one of my car camps in Lenham, I had a really bad headache that morning when I woke up. And interestingly, that was the first time I'd actually cooked a proper meal in the car. So it meant the gas stove being on for a lot longer than normal, because normally I make canned food. The day after that, my family and my wife felt that was my headache due to carbon monoxide poisoning. I said, no, it wasn't at all. So, but anyway, to be on the safe side, I bought one. Now, interestingly, when I went car camping in Edenbridge a couple of weeks ago, if you've seen that video, you'll know that the monoxide alarm went off. It went off after I'd cooked, and weirdly after I'd cooked and after I'd aerated the car. But the fact it went off meant there was carbon monoxide in the car. So clearly that has to be, this is probably actually one of the most important things really, especially if you're stealth camping and you're cooking in your car. I mean, you can, depending on where you are, will affect that, because if you're parked up somewhere where you can have all your windows open and your doors open, then it's not so major. But I tend to park in places where I'm maintaining this stealthy appearance, so I have to be stealthy, so my windows tend to be shut. So for me, if you're like that and you're like me, then actually having a carbon monoxide alarm is a no-brainer, and they're only about 15 quid on Amazon, so that has to be in my new top 5. Now this may seem like something very small, but it's something you will normally always see me using in videos, and that is the trusty dehumidifying sponge chamois leather thingy. Now this is a small but massively important thing when you're car camping, because even with wind deflectors on my car, my windows are always full of condensation. Every time I've been car camping, without fail, they always are. So with this, it means you can easily mop it all up, and then you just squeeze out your water and carry on. So this has to be, it's a super small thing, but I think it's so important to have. My next thing, again, is something you'll see in the background of a lot of car campers videos, and that is the trusty mini desk fan. Now this is a JML Chillmax one. They're about 20 quid. They're important for 2 main reasons I found. The first, obvious, when it gets hot in here. So if you're cooking, or if it's just generally hot, and it will circulate the air more. And the advantage of this type of desk fan as well, because it's got a clip on it, you can clip it on the coat hanger hooks on the back seat and literally hang it up and dangle it down. You can position it around, it moves all the way around, up and down, da da da. Now, the other thing I sometimes use the desk fan for is actually it helps me sleep. Now, that might sound strange, but it's the white noise of the fan. And obviously when you sleep in your car for the first few times, it's a bit weird. It's a strange environment and you are hyper aware of all the noises around you, no matter how big or how small. Now with the fan on, it is quite simply white noise, and it just gives your brain something else to focus on, and it does actually help to drift off. But certainly what I've found now, I haven't had to use this for probably the last 2 stealth camps, and I think that's because I'm getting used to sleeping in my car, and I'm almost getting used to the noises that I hear. My brain's got more used to it, so it's still a good thing to have though, nonetheless. The next thing are these. Now, I haven't actually used these yet on an actual car camp, but I keep them with me because I've had one time when I went car camping where actually they would have been useful, but I didn't have them with me. Now, what the idea of these pieces of wood are is for when I park on a slope. Now, every car camp I've been on, I've made sure I parked on the flat, and the one time I didn't park on the flat was I was on a slight slope, and to be honest I thought I would be okay, but I discovered, for me personally, I can't sleep if I'm on a slope. And I woke up in the night, that was in Rutum, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I felt so sick and so horrible that I literally had to get up and move the car. Basically, because I have a sun lounger, I can prop these under the legs, so I can either tilt the bed up this way or I can tilt it that way. Now obviously this is only one size fits all, this is about 1 inch, but potentially I'll be interested to try it out when I get the chance. And certainly, whilst I know the proper version of this is to have the chocks for your wheels, in terms of car camping, I don't think you really need chocks. I mean, dependent on what your sleeping arrangement is and what you have, be it a sun lounger or a bed or whatever, if you have anything that has legs on it, then a little bit of wood or something hard and that small you can put under there to potentially level you out. So it's an idea I haven't tested yet, but it takes up hardly any room, and if it works, then yeah, it's a good thing. So this next one is more of a tip than a must-have, and it's something that I do, and I'm sure most of you will do it to some extent when you go in car camping, or if you haven't been car camping, it's something to consider when you do it. But basically, what I do when I go car camping, I always plan where I'm going to park. Now, I do this 2 ways, or it's actually 3 ways. The way that you've probably heard of, because most car campers talk about it on YouTube, and that's the Park for Night app. Now, the Park for Night app, it's quite good. I mean, it's very good really. It doesn't show everything, I would hasten to add. I found car parks and stuff that aren't on Park for Night, but it'll give you a good idea, and people that have been there would have put reviews up. However, it is important to take Park for Night with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because sometimes people will say the parking is great and fantastic when actually there's a 1 hour parking limit and no overnight parking allowed. So always be wary with Park for Night, I would say, but it's a good starting point. The other app I use in conjunction with the Park for Night app is an app called Ringo. Now the Ringo app is actually the app you would use when you're going into a paid car park. So normally council car parks. Now, not all council car parks you're allowed to park 24-hour or overnight. But certainly by looking around, you can find places where you can do this, and certainly I think probably half the car parks I've stayed in have come from the Ringo app, and it's been fine to park overnight. So when I was in Godalming, that came from there. Minis Bay, that came from Ringo app. So Ringo app, Park for Night app. Another one that's useful to use in conjunction with those 2 apps is good old Google Maps. Now, Google Maps is good because you can look at an area in satellite view and you can essentially see where car parks are. Now, that's actually how I found the Edenbridge car park and the Lenham car park, was on Google Maps. They weren't on Ringo app or Park for Night, just Google Maps. But actually Google Maps, you can look at an area, you can go into Street View, and if you want to park residential, you can look it up as well. So using all 3 of those, you're gonna find somewhere decent to park. I'm pretty sure I've done 5 things already, but I've got 2 more things I'm just gonna say anyway. And one of them's a tip. Now for me, as I'm a man, I always forget stuff when I pack. So yeah, the way around that I have is on my phone, I have a little Word document, and on there is my packing list. Now I know that sounds obvious, but there are so many bits and pieces that you have to take with you when you go car camping. To have a simple checklist means that I just turn my phone on, check my list, make sure I've got everything. And actually, ever since I think the very first car camp, I did forget one thing. I've never forgotten anything since then because it's all on my little notepad. So yeah, that's an important tip, I think, to make sure you don't forget anything. Keep a checklist and check it when you go to make sure you've got everything. The last thing I'm going to mention, it's not really a tip really, it's more just a piece of equipment that I've just started using. Now in my car, whenever I've cooked in the past, if you've seen my videos, you'll know that I just cook on the floor. So I sit cross-legged like this, I put the cooker in front of me and cook away. So what I used for my last car camp was this. I'm guessing the camera's making this look a lot bigger than it is, but what this is actually a standing table for a laptop. So it has, you can use it flat like that, you can open the legs up like this, and you can even extend them up further and tilt it. So now for me in this car, this is perfect because I can lay it out this way. In fact, again, in Edenbridge you would have seen this. I had it laid out like this, so I had the legs out like this, and I used it as a table to do my cutting on and my food prep. And then once I'd done all that, I then put the legs down, put it flat on the floor, and then used it to cook on. And actually it's quite nice to have a surface to make food on. But for me, this is perfect. And what's even more perfect about this is, as you'll see in this bit, it actually fits perfectly in the little gap we've got behind the passenger chair. So it actually takes up no room at all either. So it's something that I will definitely be taking on all my future car camps too. And no video in my car would be complete without a trusty coffee. So I think that's it for my top 10 really. I think I've covered all the main bits and even the slightly not so main bits. But I'm sure if you car camp too, you might have other things which you find are super important. So yeah, if there's anything I haven't included that you think I should have, please let me know in the comments. That's this video all done. So the next car camp potentially may be next week. So that'll be myself and my wife. And it'll probably be a lot shorter than usual because we won't be doing anything in the car. We won't be cooking or anything like that. So it should be just a little short vlog, but it'll be fun to see how well it works with us both in the car. But other than that, I don't think I have any more of these types of videos planned for the moment. I've exhausted all the top 5s I wanted to do. So otherwise, yeah, that's it for me. I will see you all later. Take care.